Amen for that.
Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My name is Chris McKenna. As Pat just mentioned, I've been a Toastmaster for a week now. I've given my icebreaker a title. It is, I play guitar, I do write songs, but I'm not an actual musician. I started playing guitar back in 1991, driven by my love of 60s, 70s, and 80s music, but also in the music that's going on now, which is grunge, which killed off all the 80s music. So I became obsessed. I would play roughly 4 to 5 hours every night, just making sure that I could become the best guitarist that I thought I could. And by the time I entered college 4 years later, I started playing in bands all throughout the campus. Anytime that I could, I even became the singer. And even though I was actually doing not be considered singing, I did it out of functionality. I needed to be able to sing the songs that I wrote and also not have to worry about replacing the singer. So I felt that I was becoming a musician, that I could make a real go at it once I graduated college. But even in high school, where I decided I wanted to try to be a musician, I knew that I wanted to try and finish college. I did not want to risk that. I wanted to have a degree. So once I finished college, I came back from Michigan State, moved back to Chicago. I got a job in cooperative advertising, which to me was the most boring industry I've ever worked in my entire life. But the 9 to 5 schedule, or actually 10:30 to 7 schedule, because I have West Coast clients, enabled me to play in bands, to be out late, which you need to do if you're an opening band or the closing band, and not be completely exhausted. So I made a few CDs with my band, played all around Chicago and the Midwest, any place that would book me, and really felt that I was getting some progress, getting a little bit of a following. After 2 years of being back in Chicago, as fortune would have it, opportunity with my company enabled me to move to Los Angeles to manage an account that I had within my portfolio of accounts. So it was perfect. I had the opportunity to move to Los Angeles, which is the mecca of the music industry for most bands, or for many bands. And once I moved there, I didn't know anyone except for one college friend, but I quickly befriended some musician friends, some actor friends, and as it would go on, auditions for bands, many of which were signed to smaller labels and bands you never heard of. I started to learn that my level of musicianship was not where theirs was. You have to learn a band's songs, at least 2 or 3 of them, prior to auditioning for them, and they have to be spot on. And what I interpreted as my renditions of their songs, or the notes that they were playing, or specific chords, was not as spot on as they thought it should be. But I did find bands to play with. I did become inspired to still play music, to give a go at it. After 2 years of being in LA, as is commonplace in advertising, if your account leaves, you lose your job. Now, my company was still willing to hire me, but they said it would take at least 4 to 5 months before they had another account, and I could move back to Chicago. So I was faced with a little bit of a dilemma. I had roughly 6 months left on my lease. As luck would have it again, a friend of mine was, for a number of years, running a marketing campaign for a national liquor distribution company, one that owned and distributed Jägermeister, but also owned Grey Goose. And so there was 2 metal tours that were going across the U.S. that he needed an assistant tour manager to go on. So he offered me the job, and so I went out with Slipknot and Slayer, 2 bands you probably haven't heard of and might not like. And twice we crisscrossed the country from Fort Lauderdale up to Portland, Maine, and all the way across Seattle, all the way down to Los Angeles. Now, after 4 months of being on the road, sleeping in a tour bus, which was nicer than most of the bands, trust me, it was much nicer than the bands, buses that looked like the bus that Germany was traveling in 1981. But after 4 months of it and sleeping in a bunk and showering every other day, I'm a bit of a press if you like to shower every day because you don't get a hotel every day. And also, talking with the musicians from the bands, hanging out with them, learning their story, how they gave up everything, how they, had to sleep in friends' house, had no money. I realized that, they were true musicians. They woke up in the morning when I'd come out to get my coffee, they'd be sitting there playing the guitar while their tech hooked up their equipment, and they played all day, they played before the show. And after the tours, I thought, what a great experience. I moved back to Chicago and played in bands for another 3 years. But when I turned 30, I was sitting in a bar one night and I looked at my watch. It was 10 p.m. I said, I'm still waiting for the opening band, which is supposed to be off, to get off, so my band can go on. And I have to be on a 7:50 a.m. flight to Georgia in the morning. And the money we're going to make from this gig is going to barely cover the sound man and the beers that we drink. So, at that time, I said I do love music more than most anything, but I really came to the conclusion that I am a guitarist, I do love writing music, but I'm not really a musician.